Hello, welcome to IXION, a sci-fi city/station building game. But rather than being a relaxing build-em-up, you instead have a mission to accomplish. The story revolves around trying to get yourself and a few thousand colonists from Earth to a new habitable planet. Why? Because the Earth is fricked, and it's your job to find a new home using a prototype space station called the Tycoon, which is capable of faster-than-light travel. Kind of. The game is 5 chapters long, with each chapter being a new solar system for you to explore and pillage for resources. Each one has its own mysteries, dangers, and a few goals for you to accomplish before you can move on. As of writing, there is no sandbox mode, so the game is entirely linear. One full playthrough took me roughly 30 odd hours. This includes one failed run and my strategy game playstyle of taking my sweet time. Most people who play the game find it to be quite difficult, requiring a restart or two early on as you learn the game and make some unfortunate and mostly avoidable mistakes. Personally, I needed one restart and managed to finish the game on my second try with a minimal amount of cheating, which I will talk about later. There are guides on how to make the most optimal station build and even a breakdown of all the different events you run into, but you don't necessarily need those to succeed. The only skill that you need to train up is the talent for planning ahead. Okay, let's actually talk about gameplay now. IXION is inspired by Frostpunk, a game which you may have heard about. You have an oval to build in, you have a single main power source to take care of, and you are probably going to get people killed because you are a terrible city planner. The biggest difference between the two games is how they handle difficulty. In Frostpunk, you can make a mistake and probably recover. In IXION, if there's a crisis happening, food shortage being the most common one, you might need to reload a save, or the whole chapter, or just the whole game. Your overall objective is pretty simple: survive. Most of your attention will be spent on making sure that you have enough resources to maintain a positive status quo. For example, your ship needs to be maintained, and for that, you need alloys. You get alloys from either smelting iron or by recycling waste. To smelt, you need a mining ship to extract the iron from asteroids, a cargo ship to bring the iron to the station, a storage box for the iron, and then, finally, a smelter. This is one solid loop that you need to set up and maintain. Usually, as long as there's material, your workers will figure things out themselves. But you can have accidents. You will have accidents. Or power outages, or simply too much crap filling your storage causing a clog in the system. You can't throw resources out into space, by the way. So, be smart. Same goes for food. You need a set amount of food to feed everyone, and if you don't, then people won't be happy with you. Surprise. The number of food produced and food needed will change as you research more technologies, but for most of the game, starvation will be your biggest killer. It's a bit silly because the solution is actually quite simple. There isn't a sudden intake of population at any point in the game. You only run out of food if you choose to bring in more people than you can support. You gain more people by bringing them in from cryopods and waking them, or in the occasional event where they are already awake. So if you know you're only barely scraping by, you can just wait and build up more farms. Don't have enough room? Expand it to a new section and build there for your future population that you are about to take. You may have to, say, turn off a factory so that you don't run into problems, but that's manageable. There is a pause button available at all times. Use it and abuse it. If you need, you can just sit there and pause forever and figure out your next move. Resource management isn't as intimidating as it looks at first. You have 3 pairs of metal minerals that convert into refined materials, hydrogen, which is for nuclear power plants, waste, which is used in the treatment center, ice, which converts to water, which is for advanced food, and that's it really. There's different kinds of layouts and buildings you can make as you go through the game. The one that I use is very simple, just making a dedicated space section, factory section, food section, you get it. And as I said, you can cheat a bit. There is no blueprint mode, which isn't great. I feel like it'll be really useful for a builder game all about limited space, and someone out there agreed with me, because there is an online build planner you can use. Outside of that, you can go further and use Steam guides, but that might be getting a bit too close to actual cheating. I recommend only doing that if you're going for achievements or such. Mind you, the main reason that I showed the planner is because, like in any other builder game, you can get more advanced tiers for buildings. But these have different sizes and layouts, and there is no way for you to know how large they will be prior to you actually researching them. And you can't exactly eyeball it easily. This can and will cascade into more issues for you down the line. I'm not a mega mind, I can't remember the exact layout for each of the sectors in my head. That's just not happening, I'm sorry. Definitely one of my major gripes with the game. Yeah, the point is to make smart use of what little space you have, so why can't my scientists just tell me how much room will the storage box take up? You know, the box that they're supposedly researching? If there is a big update at some point, or an expansion, or even an IXION 2, I hope that it will come with a blueprint function. Of course, all of the things you create need to be powered. Your primary power source is the sun, thanks to the solar panels you can install with exterior construction. Those are okay, but those nuclear power plants I've been showing off, yeah, you're gonna need them, unless you're a floor planning demigod and make a hyper-efficient station layout. You're going to be nearly maxed out on solar energy near the start of Chapter 3, and you are going to be running with nuclear by the end of it. It's a crisis that is the most manageable of them all. You can just turn off non-critical buildings to save power, but it can sneak up on you. If you put down one too many new houses, you can be surprised with an overload. Basically, what I'm trying to say is embrace the power of the atom. Or, I guess, hydrogen. So, that's all the construction stuff, but you can do that in other games. What about the outside of the station? Space exploration and all that jazz. Well, to create ships, you need to build a dock. You can have as many as you want, but honestly, I feel like having more than 3 by the end of the game is pretty overkill. Each dock can hold 3 ships max, and you can mix and match their types. Mining, cargo, or science. To do anything in space, you need to build and set out a probe, Mass Effect 2 style. Then you send out your mining ships to work on the asteroids and your science ships to do events on anomalies. Your mining and cargo ships can be set to different priorities. Say you want one miner and hauler to primary focus on getting iron, and a second pair of miner hauler to run carbon and silicon and stuff like that. You can also designate high priority targets or avoid places altogether if your ships would need to go through a dangerous area to get to them. But this is a bit finicky. You can't select and track multiple asteroids, and there's a lot around. So you need to either click on each one to tell your guys to avoid them, or just not have them do anything at all. Still, it's fairly simple, and the automized nature of the system is usually more helpful than harmful. It only gets screwy when you have a whole naval fleet to manage and you either stress yourself out or stop caring and just let them do whatever. They'll probably do a good enough job with the orders you gave them. Probably. Science ships work a bit differently. Rather than giving them mass work orders, you give them orders directly, sending them to anomalies to gather data and do events. This is your main source of research points, and thus, more technologies. The amount of data gained varies, of course. There's plenty of nice and simple, let's commit an X amount of effort to get a proportional amount of data, but some are more outlandish. I won't spoil anything, as these exploration encounters are the main source of enjoyment you'll get, but there is some interesting stuff to find. Let's actually talk about researching. I have some gripes with it. It starts out simple enough. You need a tech station, which acts as any other building, and through it you get new technology. Either new stuff completely, like new factories, or upgrades for existing buildings. On top of it, the tech station generates a tiny bit of science on its own. Meaning, you can sit in the Prologue, turn on a speed hack, and get all of the technologies before you hit Chapter 1. That really is overkill and takes far too much time, and anyway, as I said, you don't actually need to research everything. The thing is, though, that you'll most likely have all of the necessary techs by Chapter 3, maybe Chapter 2 if you're really efficient. Yeah, it's a decently sized tree and there's a bunch of upgrades, but there's some stuff here that I never really found a use for and only got because I was imagining my scientists lounging around being lazy and wanted to give them something to do. A better food source, better factories, or a trash compactor, and better housing. Everything else, other than the required story technology, is mostly there to make your life a bit easier. You only need the fire station because the game arbitrarily decides that, hey, fires are now a thing after like 20 hours of playtime. And stability buildings like the Fight Club Dome, Observatory, or Church Tower are cool sounding, but you just don't need them. While we're on the topic, stability and trust are exactly what they sound like. If your crew gets angry, they can go on strikes, refuse to work, and then you get a game over because they'll throw you out into space. Which I do not have footage of because I have no idea how to get my stability or trust that low without actually sabotaging myself. There's a policy-making system in the game which you access with a special building. It's used for stuff like needing to give people less food while taking a stability penalty, but honestly I didn't interact with it that much. The propaganda edict gives you a bunch of stability and was more or less the main thing I used the policy building for. The basic VR building gives some stability, which can be upgraded to give you even more, and eventually, the best housing also gives a bunch. Of all the things in the game, stability is something that I never struggled with. I feel like there could have been more taken from Frostpunk here, where eventually you need to decide on 2 different ideological paths. There's already a heavy theme of different philosophies by the different factions that you encounter in the game, why not integrate that into the gameplay? Let me choose between being more aggressive or pacifistic, or religious versus scientific. Maybe a tech that gives all the away team weaponry and military training, which could change the outcomes of some events, positively or negatively. Or maybe the church can only be built if you go religious, and the observatory can only be built if you're more of a science guy. Stuff like that. Oh, right, I forgot about promises. There are little morale events that happen. You can get a small boost in trust if you succeed, and conversely, a slight trust penalty if you fail. But, well, nothing happens if you reject them. At all. I think they're there to help you out a bit if you're having trust issues. The goals tend to be reasonable most of the time, but again, trust isn't really a problem. All in all, the gameplay is decent fun, but it can be weirdly unforgiving in some cases and basically without challenge in others. Take in 100 more people than you can feasibly feed, and you might need to restart the whole game, but constantly break promises and overwork people and who cares? All these things are a means to an end, however. That end being, do whatever main objective you have in the system you are in before jumping away to the next one. Theoretically, you could just ignore everything, only get the barest minimum of resources and focus on the main story, but that sounds like a hard mode run. There is technically a timer running out in the form of the Tycoon constantly needing alloys to maintain itself, but there's thousands of iron deposits in each system, and if you really want to, you can just go trash mode and make an infinite amount. So, take your time. Explore. You'll get a big scary warning, but it's only a minor stability impairment and it will disappear when you move on. And only move on when you're ready. Seriously, you can spend like 2 in-game years just in Chapter 1 alone. Playing slow and steady is definitely viable, if not optimal, and it's worth it to see all the different events rather than just rushing off as soon as possible. I should talk about the music for a bit. I like it. It sets the tone between a whimsical space exploration and a slow, gloomy march, which I think is appropriate for the game's theme. I don't know, I don't have a music degree, but the waveforms that emit as I play the space game please my ears, so it's doing something right. The soundtrack is composed by Guillaume David. I haven't heard of him before, but by my subjective musical opinion, I think he's quite talented. I think the game's atmosphere would suffer quite a lot without the score. There's this track that plays each time we do a wall jump and it more or less carries the whole sequence. The first time I heard it, I was mentally brought back to an early age full of childhood wonderment and a desire to discover the unknown, which is what got me to the sci-fi genre in the first place. Overall, I think the music in IXION is pretty nice. Maybe not every track will be super memorable, but that's about all the criticism that I do have. And now, the story. First, I'll go over the surface level basics, and then go into more spoilery territory later. You may have noticed that in all the background footage, the objectives tab has been blurred out nearly every time. That's me attempting to reduce any accidental spoilers to a minimum. After the prologue ends, there are quite a few twists and turns, and I don't want to accidentally ruin parts of the story for anyone. Okay, so the game's premise. In short, you're the administrator of an experimental space station, property of the Dolos Corporation, and can travel through the stars. You're being sent out as part of a new generation of space explorers with the end goal of finding new places for humanity to settle. Because Earth is having its environment too ruined, and we need to start looking at other options.
In building the foundations for mankind's future, yada yada yada.
Much like an irresponsible family member, it's better to run away rather than stay and fix the problems that we created. What was supposed to be a trial mission turns into a race against time to save humanity. You'll have to improvise and piece together a solution with the help of whatever remnants you find of those that came before you. There are pretty stars to look at, places to go, and sadly, not a whole lot of attractive aliens to meet. Alright, that's all I can say without spoilers. If you want a quick summary, I think generally the story of IXION is fairly decently engaging for most of the time. There are one or two plot holes, and as is tradition with these types of games, the story gets slightly weaker near the end, but overall it's still a fun, tense sci-fi adventure in space. And as a final disclaimer, I won't really be talking about the various exploration events that you can engage with, at least not a whole lot. But if you don't want to hear anything at all, then skip to this point. You have like 1 second. Gone? Good. You begin in Norway, about to launch off into space. The Delos Corporation is a pioneer in space exploration, and you're the freshly recruited administrator of an experimental traveling space station, the Tycoon. Your first objective upon arriving is to become familiar with all the systems and prep yourself for a journey to Proxima Centauri to gather some samples.
You will then oversee the installation of the Vol engine and perform a short test jump to Proxima Centauri.
In this prologue, you are guided by the Marduk Council, Delos' highest-ranking members who each contributed a crucial part not just to the Tycoon, but to Delos itself. They talk about genetic conatus and echoes of the future, and you might not quite understand what those things are, but that's fine, just focus on building crew quarters and such. You also get some help from the Ushtanabi, a ship belonging to another group calling themselves the Ashtangites. They aren't as powerful as Delos, but the two have formed a philosophical/business partnership, and they send over food and crew to help you in your mission. You can explore the solar system a bit, but you're mostly just trying to get a basic setup going. Eventually, after going through the prep checklist, you get contacted by Vanir Dolos, founder of the company.
Hello, Administrator. I'm glad to see that you have managed to complete your assignments in preparation for this unique moment in history.
He gives you a decently okay speech, one that you might expect from the CEO of a mega corporation, though he does use some slightly strange wording.
You must understand that this is not simply another chapter in humanity's story. The book of our life on Earth is over, and we stand now at its epilogue. It is true that our time in this world is brief, but at least I can rest assured knowing that my legacy will endure for eons. Farewell, Administrator. For the few who stand in the light, and the many who dwell in the dark, you carry the fate of us all.
Oh well, I guess he's a bit eccentric. There's nothing else to do now, other than take your place by the moon and fire up the Vol engine, the FTL device that will send you to your destination, while the people of the Earth observe as you set off. Vanir gives a speech to everyone back on Earth. 3, 2, 1... You exit void space next to what is left of the moon, seemingly decades later. Earth is a burning rock with no survivors to be found on the surface, and your crew, predictably, doesn't take this information very well. You salvage what you can from the Sol system, trying to find out what happened while gathering cryopods and other resources. Among the more interesting wrecks is a ruined UN superstructure, a strange abandoned station belonging to a faction called the Black Market Society, and Outer Hope, a secret Delos research facility. You decide to investigate it, hoping to get some answers. There are signs of battle all around, outside and inside the station, though your expedition team manages to scavenge a black box, and through it you learn of a hidden Delos factory on Jupiter. Traveling there, you discover a functioning PA still in control, though just barely, as it seems to be running out of power. It tells you about the Protagoras, another Delos Tycoon-like station that had been sent out sometime after you. Its objective was to reach Remus, a habitable exoplanet some ways away from Earth. It reveals that the only way to reach it is with a new generation Vol engine that it had been constructing specifically for you. It helps you install it onto the Tycoon before it finally shuts down.
Vanir was right about the echoes of the future. I bestow upon you this miracle, and with it, release myself so that I may embrace the sleep that was stolen from me.
The home system of the human species is gone. Any hope of establishing a permanent settlement here is dashed by the total environmental destruction and your lack of equipment and expertise. You have no choice but to jump to another solar system, following the Protagoras in the hopes of finding a new planet to live on. And so you do, leaving the cradle of humanity forever. You arrive successfully in the Morton system. But there's a rather large problem. The Tycoon isn't built for this.
Hypothesis. Each Vol jump causes irreversible damage to the Tycoon structure.
It's an experimental station that was never meant for long-term missions. The hull is deteriorating under the stress from the Vol jumps, and it's only going to get worse. You're under a time limit in more than one way. You need resources to maintain the station, and you absolutely have to find Remus within 5 jumps or the station will explode.
Predictive modeling suggests that 4 more Vol jumps are possible before the Tycoon breaks apart.
Eking out a life in space is not viable for you. You send out probes to nearby signals, trying to find clues as to the whereabouts of the Protagoras. A dead mining vessel, a UN shuttle that's completely shot up, A lonely PA wandering through the clouds of a gas giant, you piece together the grim fate of the Protagoras and Delos itself. Delos has and is being hunted down by just about everyone and everything left of humanity. Eventually, you find the Protagoras, embedded into an ice asteroid. The PA of the station contacts you. Its voice is rather unmistakable.
Administrator, part of me remembers you. I am glad to see you and your crew are still alive.
Valhalla explains that the Protagoras has been disabled by UN supership, the Etemenanki, and the coordinates to Remus have been carried away. You help where you can, talking to the survivors who accuse you of destroying reality. Some of your away team defects, though conversely a number of survivors living on the Protagoras choose to join up with you instead, wishing to see their quest to the end. Before you leave, there is the matter of its PA. If you want, you can choose to disconnect it and bring it with you. Maybe it will be of help somehow in the future. So, you've gathered enough resources, developed and expanded the Tycoon, and with the remaining crew of the Protagoras secured, all that remains is to jump after the Etemenanki. That being said, things are only going to get harder now. You have more people to take care of, and on top of this, you must succeed where others failed. And they were arguably better prepared than you are. The main reason why you managed to get this far is thanks to the help of others and luck. Better hope it doesn't run out.
I have programmed a delayed data transfer that will send across the Etemenanki's self-similar signature once you have guaranteed the integrity of this structure. They plan to reach Remus. Follow their Vol signature, and you will find our new home. What you will do once you reach your destination is only up to you. Farewell, Administrator. For the few who stand in the light and many who dwell in the dark, you carry the fate of us all.
You arrive in the middle of a massive debris field, staring down a destroyed starship many times larger than the Tycoon. There are thousands of human bodies floating around in the space around you. You found the Etemenanki, though it's shattered into pieces. Your crew explore the wreck in hopes of finding out what happened to it. Everyone inside the command center is dead, some apparently from suicide, and searching through the ship logs, it doesn't take long to figure out what happened. The Etemenanki has been destroyed and looted by the Piranesi, a black market society ship which is now in possession of the Remus coordinates. You download its signature from the computers and can follow it to whatever destination it went to, but at this moment it would be suicide. The Etemenanki is massive, clearly built for aggression, much like a warship, and it could not hold up against the power of the Piranesi. There are pieces of it scattered around the entire system, and as you are right now, your fate will be quite similar. Your objective, for now, is to look through the various wrecks and hopefully develop defenses against whatever weapons the black market society ship may possess.
The eventual failure of the Tycoon's hull is inevitable. We have no other choice but to confront the Piranesi. Before we leave the system, we must find a way to develop an effective countermeasure strategy.
Not to mention, you have to upgrade the Tycoon in general and take care of your crew. Your people are unsettled and distressed by the sound of the dead colliding with the hull. The journey so far has tested their will. With a dying universe around them, they resort to a rather interesting coping mechanism. And, on top of everything else, there is a massive electromagnetic storm passing through. It's slow, but eventually it will get to your little corner of the system. Yet another hurdle to overcome. Going slowly through the disconnected pieces, you start to get an idea of the Piranesi's capabilities. Long-range missiles, automated drones, electronic warfare. It's quite the arsenal, and on top of that, it would appear that the Piranesi, while belonging to a human faction, is several times more advanced than anything you've seen so far. All that being said, you have enough data to begin designing countermeasures, and you even rescue a dog. So, after gathering all the cryopods from the destroyed UN ship, enacting a mercy that certainly would not have been given to you, and constructing your defenses, you are finally somewhat ready to go to confront the Piranesi, and hopefully without encountering any further delays, as the structure of the Tycoon is steadily coming to a breaking point. It's do or die now, no matter what happens in the next system. With the Protagoras left far behind and the last traces of the UN violently disposed of, you have become humanity's last hope. Either you reach Remus, or all is lost. Get ready to jump. The new system at a first glance seems desolate and barren of life. An inert pulsar sits in the middle, and while it looks fairly ominous, it's far from the biggest threat that you can see. The Piranesi is on scanners. Strangely enough though, it's powered down and seemingly non-functioning. Apparently it had escaped from its encounter with the UN unscathed, which is good for you. With that in mind, it might not be a bad idea to prepare a bit before confronting the dreadnought. Gather a few resources, run a colonization test run, explore the planets. There's a strange wreck floating in space that seems to be the Tycoon. Once you think you have everything that you need, you can explore the Piranesi. Your science team doesn't tarry, not wanting to stick around this strange, unsettling craft. Of course, nothing ever goes to plan. The ship awakens, and your exploration crew is as good as dead. You have no direct weapons to speak of. All you can do is run away and live to fight another day. The commander of the Piranesi seems to be a PA of some kind. As it threatens you, you recall that the voice seems rather familiar.
Administrator, I see you. Pitiful Dolos leftovers. Ridiculous flesh bags. You are flies to me. I'll tear you apart, eat you, digest you, and soon you, your crew, the Tycoon, and whatever's left of Dolos will be part of me.
It's Batista, the Dolos counselor from all the way back on Earth. Except now he wants you and your crew dead. Any loyalty he may have had to the company, the mission, or humanity is now absent.
You are nothing but erratic illusion, pointless heat dissipation, and abject failure.
Eden is glitching out. You're being pursued by drones and missiles until finally your crew reaches out to you directly for the first time. They had to break several of your own security protocols and they're not sure if you're even real, but they devised a plan. You're gonna trigger the pulsar. Still on the run, you construct a Faraday cage to shield yourself while creating a probe that can force the star into emitting a pulse. The missiles and drones now appear more frequently, along with cyber attacks. You're running out of places to run to, trying to buy time for your science and engineering teams. When everything is finally ready, you can push the big button.
The Piranesi has been defeated.
The Piranesi is dead, hopefully forever. And finally, you can get the coordinates to Remus. It took a lot of blood, sweat and tears, but it seems that your journey is just a hop skip away from the end. While searching the remains of the Piranesi, your crew notices a pod full of decaying bodies of the UN crew. They grab whatever is necessary, and you make ready for the final jump to your new home. You made it, finally. Just in time too, seeing as the Tycoon wouldn't be able to survive another whole jump. Now you just need to send out a few probes, and there it is, Remus. Except someone got here before you.
Greetings, people of the VBS Tycoon. I am Agora, of the 3rd generation.
The Ashtangites, the group that cooperated with Dolos and helped you out early on, have somehow managed to get here before anyone else. With genetic bioengineering, they chose a rather different colonization method. They became something else, not quite human.
We do not terraform, we change. We are not intruders. We are a crystalline part of the ecosystem.
They explain their philosophy and way of life. They are completely pacifistic, and negative traits such as crime have been completely eliminated. Because of the depth they feel towards Dolos, they invite you and your crew to live with them.
We remember Dolos as our first and closest ally, as the one who made the Neocon Parshaville teachings visible. Pioneers of genetic conatus, you have suffered repression, persecution, and extermination. In memory of the doors you opened for us, of our common past, it is our turn to open the door for you.
And hey, that is why you're here. To build a new home for humanity on Remus. There's just one problem. You can't stay human anymore. The Ashtangites will only accept you if you change yourself to be like them.
There is a way for you and your crew to join us. You may be a part of our community. Shape it. We will no longer be we. You will no longer be you. We will become us.
If you wish to live on Remus, you must kill off the last remaining traces of humanity in the universe. One hitch in this plan is that the Ashtangites no longer possess this technology, at least not within arm's reach, since they no longer need it. To get the tech necessary for the conversion process, you will have to find and combine the data fragments from the 3 temples of the Ashtangites. The temples of free will, merit, and common sense. Oh, and these temples don't worship or praise those subjects. They denounce them. To join the Ashtangites in their Navi pacifistic nature utopia, you must get rid of your free will, your common sense, and your concept of merit. If you try to investigate further, things don't bode well for the crew. Doubt may begin to manifest in your mind at this point, whether this really is the way forward, but you're committed. And it's not like you can go back to Earth, or anywhere else for that matter. You gather all the fragments, just in time for your old foe to show up one last time.
People of the VVS Tycoon, we have detected the presence of a BMS warship in the Ilia system. The Piranesi has followed in the footsteps of your Vol trace.
The Piranesi is here.
Administrator, I am not dead yet. I will feed on your pitiful community. I will build my rebirth. Are you ready for your simulation?
The Ashtangites have no weapons of any kind. They are completely defenseless. Their philosophy prevents internal conflict, true, but it failed to account for external threats. It's up to you to deal with the Piranesi once and for all. Problem is, you don't have any weapons either. The only option you have is to set up batteries and wait for them to get an immense charge, effectively turning the Tycoon into a fire ship. After piecing together all the data fragments, you can go ahead and build a conversion chamber. The process is quick, and it doesn't require fuel of any kind except it creates waste, and your amount of crew goes down proportionally. This may have been a bad idea, but it's too late now. The Piranesi is damaged and quite slow, with only its main planet killer weapon powered. It can't attack you, but it can destroy Remus, your last hope. Your crew, what remains of it anyway, is ready. You'll be transported to the planet's surface via a pod that was part of a chamber, while Eden assumes control of the station for a ramming maneuver against the counselor turned madman. As the Tycoon collides with the Piranesi in orbit of Remus, you and what remains of your crew settle on the surface. You are welcomed into a strange world, and you yourself are a stranger still. You have peace, but it feels as if something is missing now. Supposedly a perfect symbiosis of nature and humanity, and yet there's a part of you that is no longer there. That is one way your journey can end. But there's another option. Remus. Not officially though. There's nothing there, supposedly. Eden even informs you that you're hallucinating. Your crew contacts you again for the second time. They offer a different path, and should you choose to accept it, it's gonna be a lot less straightforward, with a lot more labor involved, but it might be worth it. Eden doesn't like this. Operating on a century-old command protocol, she forbids all interaction with Remus. It's time to unplug her. Her voice goes. There are no more updates, there are no more alerts. It's just you now, in the quiet of space. Your science crew begins preparation of the first permanent human settlement on a foreign planet. But there's also bad news. Your cargo ships aren't built with offloading this many colonists in mind, and you'd lose far too many people that way. But there's some good news to go along with that. You can use the shuttle that you ride on a Tycoon with, Charon. With some quick thinking, the blueprints are revealed, and you can get to manufacturing a whole fleet of shuttles. Maybe it's not luck at all. Maybe one year consider that you might try to do something like this. You still need to train up your crew and build a settlement, but that is just a matter of time. Time that you are running out of, mind. The Piranesi is still around, and it's still a problem that needs to be dealt with. You already know how. You made enough space and built enough batteries. Problem is, you no longer have Eden to sacrifice. No Eden, no cruise control. It's either going to be you going down with the ship, or you install the remains of Valhalla that you scavenged from the Protagoras all the way back. One last parting gift from Vanir Dolos. Guess in the end he gets to see the future he built. In a way, you join your crew on a shuttle and you set off to your new home. When the Tycoon dies, a piece of humanity dies with it. Yet, The most important part was never the station itself, but rather its occupants. Unlike the Ashtangites, you keep your flaws, and you also keep your greatest strengths. You've been through a lot on this journey, but you earned this victory. Well, there seems to think so anyway.
You took the helm in the only launch window available to us. Thanks to you, our efforts, our mistakes, our sins and sacrifices will sink into oblivion, into the past, while the first pages are written for a newly born humanity.
The UN failed, carrying the sins of the past while learning nothing, and Batista went off the deep end completely. And ultimately, without your intervention, the Ashtangites would have perished. Despite all their technology and belief in their own righteousness, maybe their path isn't the ultimate answer either. Perhaps the original humanity would not have been a good contender for a new start, but you're different. You have changed, but for the better. And now you can finally take a breather. And that's the story of IXION. Now, I did leave out quite a lot. There's a whole bunch of mysteries to be found through the different events, some of which can carry through the whole game. There is a mystery to be uncovered, but I'll leave that one up to you. There's also the philosophical stuff. Throughout the whole game you're told and shown that humanity isn't really all that great. The Ashtangites go all the way into this line of thought and cast away just about everything that made them human. I mentioned earlier how technically there are no aliens in this game, and there kind of aren't. But the Ashies certainly feel that way. Just nearly everything about them is alien. The UN, Dolos, the Green Navi, even what's-his-face Robot Man have the same similarity of trying to achieve their goals through ultimate control. The UN turning into classical tyrants, Dolos using spyware and different kind of manipulative and intrusive technologies to keep everyone in line, Ashies with their guiding elites and literal lack of free will, and Robot Man wanting to be the machine god of the galaxy. In most games, morality is the simple matter of being objectively good or burning down orphanages. So it's nice to see a change in that trend, where just because you're a good guy doesn't automatically mean that you win at everything. Or maybe I'll just retcon that completely and we will just have a pacifism good, free will bad, I love trees message somewhere in the future. Who knows? There's also plenty for you to discover, like the whole time travel plot that's happening, which I haven't touched at all. But I think I said what I wanted to, and hopefully convinced you to at least get interested in the game. It does have its issues. Some people find it too hard, some people find it too boring, and when I started making this video there were quite a few bugs. If you like near future sci-fi and colony simulators, then you might be able to forgive some of the smaller crimes. Like the fact that a lot of the mystery would be over if you could just talk to the people that you unfreeze from the cryopods. Final criticism / praise. Some plot holes here and there, towards the end. How did the Navi get to the planet first? Why didn't the Piranesi get there before us? Yeah, it says it's disabled when you first meet it, but it seems to be functioning just fine after you deep-fried it with a neutron star. Whatever damage the UN ship did can't have been worse than the sun exploding. The actual planets themselves are very pretty, and honestly that goes for most of the background. Earth is actually beautiful to look at. The wind moves and you can even see satellites and stuff moving above the atmosphere. I also like the look of the Etemenanki and the scale of it, even if it didn't make too much sense in regards to the story. Supposedly there's an economic and resource crisis, but you're making a planet-sized ship? Oh well. There's a cult that pops up, but also never really goes anywhere. You can build a special church that attaches to the hull, and it has all these freaky tech upgrades, but as far as I know, there aren't any fun events or anything like that. Nobody's sacrificing themselves to give you a bit more permanent hull and then hearing voices at night. Nothing. If you're going to let me build a countermeasure missile, why not just let me build a missile to shoot the giant spaceship with? I got all this hydrogen laying around. Just let me ram a nuke up his USB drive. Look at all these little ants. Surely I can put a gun on these. I like that while there is a technical time limit, it still lets you get away with exploring a lot, most of the time. On your first playthrough you might panic a bit, but on the second one you know that you can take your time to do all the events and stock up on resources that you need. Or maybe you're the type of person who doesn't like that. Well, don't worry, because they're adding more difficulty options specifically for you. The final system of Chapter 5 is a bit weird. If you want to enjoy all the events, you're gonna need multiple silent ships going off at the same time and, mindless spoilers, if you're working on a very specific quest line that you've been doing through the whole game by this point, you also need to do the specific planets in a specific order, and there's no real way to know which one. At least not as far as I know, so that's fun. Conclusion. All in all, with all that being said, I liked IXION. It's pretty, even if it's a bit rough around the edges. It's still worth the time I put in. It's far from perfect, and there is still the occasional bug to be found, but I'd say that by old game scores this would be a solid 7 out of 10. An 8 perhaps, when/if everything gets ironed out. I hope it gets more love and some expansions down the line. It's a fun AA game, and I hope the devs go on to create more things. The end. This video took me almost 3 months due to a combination of procrastination, tiredness, and some real life stuff. If you actually made it this far, then that means I'm doing something right though. So that's good. Leave a like. Smash that subscribe button. I'm very tired. I got into a car accident today. I'll see you next time with something simpler.